Yeah, well, it shows. 0-5 is just absolutely ridiculous when you can't win a game at home. And I kind of feel bad for the Giants because I don't think they're as bad as their record is their 2-7 record. I don't think they're that bad of a football team. But something needs to change, and
Something's
they got to turn around quick.
Yeah, I mean something's not gelling there. There's something. It's almost like they don't have a plan. They go in hoping for things to break their way every week, and there's no like the first year when Ben Dable came in, you could see the plan. Since then, I don't know if it's because he's babying Daniel Jones, trying not to get him injured again, but it's just there seems to be no plan.
I agree.
And let's go back to Sunday. Detroit Lions keep making statements. It seems week after week, they really the score doesn't show how badly they were beaten up on the Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that is firing on all cylinders, and people, I don't think thought that they were going to fall apart when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, but they certainly thought that might affect them a little bit, but it has not. And then this week they went out and signed Zadarius Smith to add him into the mix and use him as an additional pass rusher. And the biggest thing with me and the Lions is they can throw it, they can run it, and they can play defense. And when you can play complementary football on both sides of the ball, you got a chance to win every single game. And to me, the Lions have come full circle. I mean, they have won 3 in a row now in Lambeau. They hadn't won 3 games in Lambeau the previous 30 years,
Right.
and now they've won 3 in a row. And that just to me shows you that they've completely turned around. Hell, they were favored by 2.5 going into the game in Lambeau, and Green Bay was 6-2. So I think this is what you want with a football team. You want a good cerebral quarterback that knows what he's doing, that can deliver the ball. You want fast, strong running backs that can get yards in chunks, and they've got 2 of them. And then they've got a whole host of playmakers out there on the outside with Amon-Ra Brown, Khalif Raymond. They got Allen Robinson, who's a gritty veteran, and then they've got one of the best young tight ends in all of football, in Sam Laporta, and it's working.
It is, and the other thing is they're tough. They reflect their coach showed when he first came here. We all made fun of the bite your kneecaps thing, but he kind of lives by that mantra, and it's like he doesn't care. 4th and 1 from his own 29, I could see him going for it. He doesn't care. He does not coach scared. He doesn't care what people think, and he kind and when you have a coach like that, I remember when Parcells took over for the Giants, and when he really took over and he started going on 4th and 1s and doing some stuff you hadn't seen from the Giants in my lifetime. Um, it tells the players he believes in them and their ability to make it happen, and once you got that confidence, it takes you over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I hadn't got to yet, but the coaching. I like Ben Johnson, their offensive play caller. He's getting the job done. I really like Aaron Glenn and the way that he's calling the defense as well. So they've got these guys that maybe aren't big name guys, but they do their jobs. And I'm talking about like Jalen Reeves-Maven, who's a guy who's been and he's a guy from Tennessee here who's been in the NFL now for I don't know, 8 years, 7 years. And he's a special teams guy. He's a backup linebacker, and he just makes plays when he gets on the field. And Brian Branch, who a lot of people don't think of as like this big time playmaker, but he's a guy that goes out and can make a big time play. And I keep hearing everybody saying that this is the best division in football right now, with Detroit, with Minnesota, with Green Bay, and Chicago. And I'm like, what? I don't know, but maybe they are. I mean, they're all teams that have at least won 4 games at this point, and they all are getting pretty decent play out of the quarterback position. However, it looks like Sam Darnold is looking a lot more like Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks. I mean, they were super lucky to win that game He turned the ball over 3 times.
Yeah.
And, the fact that they won that game, I think, was more a matter of, the Colts just being inept.
Well, I mean, and not to pick on Sam Darnold. I mean, we don't know the guy personally. He seems to be a nice guy. Everybody seems to love him. But the fact of the matter is, this is Sam Darnold. This is what he does. It's you can try and coach it out of him, but when you try and do those kind of things, it means you only give him half the playbook. You know what I mean? You can only let him do certain things. And why would you want a quarterback that you can only give half the playbook to? It just doesn't work out.
I don't know. I don't recall the last time I saw a team quarterback turn the ball over 3 times and win. That does not usually happen. And like I said, the Colts just could not get anything going offensively. They never scored a touchdown. And, Brian Flores, love him or hate him, he's got this Minnesota defense firing on all cylinders and playing some damn good football. And he's to be commended for the job he's done.
Well, let's face facts. The reason he got fired is because he didn't want to play Tua.
Yep.
And the owner wanted to play Tua. And this is becoming, and it's going to be a big thing in this league because the quarterback position, as much as they have to pay these guys on their second contract, these owners want to make sure they got the right guy, and they're going to put pressure on these coaches and the general managers to make sure that they're sure before they give them that $60 million contract. So the fact of the matter is, a lot of these coaches are going to suffer the same fate as Brian Flores. And we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
The coach's job is to win games. It's not to coach a quarterback. It's to win games. But the owners, it's all about, it's the money game. And as long as these salaries keep going up, it's going to become more and more about that.
Well, yeah, that's what the owner wants to find out. Do I pay this guy $50 million a year, or should I not? That's what the owner wants to know. And this is what we talked about in last week's show. I said, if you're coming in and you're taking a job, you better damn well know if you are going to have the ability to start who you want to start. Because it looks like to me in a lot of instances across this league, it's the owner who's making the decision on who's playing quarterback.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, and then you look, right now, what's going on down in Jacksonville. You got Trevor Lawrence, who's beat up a little bit. And we saw this happen a few years ago to even though it's his left shoulder, we saw how it affected Baker Mayfield a couple of years ago. And you just invested this guy a big amount of money. Are you going to keep throwing him out there?
No, I don't think he should. I think you take him out and you play him when he's healthy is my thing, because you saw what happened to Baker. Yeah. He wanted to play and he wanted to try and win games for his team. And but it wasn't the same because he couldn't step into the throws. Right. And then his confidence suffered and the team around him didn't think he could do it. And then the press started getting on him and then bam, all of a sudden he was a reject. So I think you have to sit him down and you play quarterback when he's healthy, because it just does not look the same when they're not.
Let's go back to the Kansas City Buccaneers game.
And just last point, isn't that why you got Mac Jones? I mean, that was the whole reason you trade. I mean, I know they didn't trade a first-round pick, but you made a trade and you brought this young guy in thinking, hey, we can maybe develop him. Maybe he can work into being a good backup for us, and then maybe leads to him going somewhere else and starting again.
Yeah, whatever. Trade bait at some point.
Yeah, but that's why you brought him in, because you saw something there. So this is why you brought him in. You put him out there and you play him.
And then we got to get to the Kansas City and Tampa Bay game. Again, Kansas City, they're doing a great Houdini act. They're just escaping losing. But it all came down. I agree with a lot of the press. Why didn't they go for 2? And the greatest thing is, I don't know if you saw it, the reaction of Baker Mayfield when they lost a coin flip. It was just like, F.
Yeah, he knew they were over. He knew it was over.
I mean, you're there. You 2 points wins the game. We've all seen the magic of Mahomes. I mean, 13 seconds against Buffalo in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Somehow this guy makes it happen. You might as well go for the win.
I agree. I mean, it's really easy to sit here and say that on Thursday night when our jobs aren't on the line and we didn't have to make the call in the moment. It's real simple for us. I understand why he didn't, I guess, but I'm with you. When you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you're on the road. You got a chance to win. I think you go for it. I really do. And that's, to me, that's because I don't think this isn't the same Tampa Bay defense that Tom Brady had. Okay, it's just not.
No.
There's not the same amount of playmakers. You got some of the same guys like Levante David, 5 years older.
Right, exactly.
You got some of those same guys, but most of the team has been turned over, and the defense just isn't as good. And you're not going to stop Patrick Mahomes from winning the game when that's what he does.
All right, let's go out to the AFC West for a little bit. We'll stay in the AFC West, I should say. We've seen Harbaugh make an improvement with the Chargers. Denver, hey, Bo Nix was looking pretty good with Peyton. I tell you, Antonio Pierce. Now he's gotten rid of 2 coaches. I hear this week or something. Did he get rid of?
Yeah, he fired the offensive line coach. He fired the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, and he's brought in Norv Turner, who's 72 years old, to come in and help his son run the offense. And, I don't know. This team is a mess. And I feel bad. This is what we talked about last week. I feel bad for Antonio Pierce because I don't know how you can judge him as a coach when he doesn't have a quarterback. This roster is not good.
No.
And I just they're actually playing more competitively than I would even give them credit for, considering you got Gardner Minshew and you got Desmond Ridder as your options, and the guy that they really wanted to play, is on injured reserve right now and probably done for the year.
Yeah, and the other thing about this the Norv Turner thing, wasn't his son the offensive coordinator in Washington under Rivera?
Yes, I believe so.
So I mean, why did you give this guy? I mean, and not, he hasn't had success yet, and he had, I think, a little bit more talent in Washington than he has, at least at the quarterback position, than he has now. So it's like, I don't know why you think he's going to pull miracles out of his hat, but it's whatever.
Yeah, that's probably not the guy I would have chosen, to be honest with you. After some of the struggles, he was the offensive coordinator for Washington, 2020 to 2022. And things did not go well. He was inevitably replaced by what's the guy's name from Eric Bieniemy, and and then he became the passing game coordinator for the Raiders, and then now he's the interim offensive coordinator. We'll see. Maybe having his dad next to him will help. I have no idea, but I mean, once again, what does this guy really have to work with? Not much.
Yeah, and it's I think this is the time when people got to start looking seriously and saying to the Davis family, maybe it's time you sell the team. Mark Davis, I mean, Al, even in Al's later days, he didn't have the sharpest handle on picking the right players and stuff like that. And his son, for sure, isn't any smarter. And I mean, he's gone through how many coaches? I mean, come on. It's like, come on.
The one coach they had that was having success was, the gentleman that took over for
Gruden.
John Gruden and took him to the playoffs, and they fired his ass. And to me, that showed they have no idea what they're doing. And I'm so confused because they bring in Richard Seymour and Tom Brady as minority owners. What does that mean? I mean, are they now helping with decision making, and are they going to help? Like, I'm so confused as to what that entails. And to me, if you're going to invite minority ownership, you should invite people that are going to help your organization and make it better. And I certainly think maybe Tom could do that, but I don't know how you are a objective commentator and a owner at the same time. It's all very confusing to me there.
No, it is very confusing, and I understand that a lot of these players, want to get in, and maybe that's what they should do. Maybe we got to get these billionaire country club guys back out of football and get football people back into football. You know what I mean? It's like the first generation of owners were frustrated because they couldn't play football, but they grew up when it was in infancy, and they respected the game. And now you got this whole slew of new ownership that's come in, and outside of the Raiders, the Giants, and the Steelers, it's like a revolving door of guys that, they're country clubbers. I want to go hang with some athletes. And not exactly the greatest thing in the world.
No, I mean, it's look at the owners that have had sustained success. And, my first one that I look at is, the owner in Pittsburgh, Mr. Rooney, the Rooney family. They know how to run a football team. They know how to bring in football guys and then give those football guys what they need to do their jobs, and get a coach who you trust and who you're going to bring in and going to let him do his job and not fire him after, one bad year. Now, Tomlin hasn't really had a bad year, but I'm just saying you got to have continuity. You can't just have a different coach every year. You can't just have a different general manager every year. You have to have a plan, and you have to stick to it. And that's what you see in organizations like Pittsburgh. That's what you see in Baltimore, for example. Baltimore probably is the best example. They've had the same coach for almost 20 years. They've had, two general managers, but the new general manager trained under Ozzie Newsome, so he knows what he's doing, and he's doing a really good job. So, those are just two examples that I'm thinking of owners that get it. And, and it looks to me like this guy in Washington, Josh Harris, gets it because, he's hired a good coach. He's kind of, you don't see Josh Harris hanging around the field trying to get on TV. They'll show him a little bit at the games, but it looks like he gets it. And I think some of the other ownership groups, if they were smart, would look at Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, and try and do the same things or do it similarly.
Now, how about, speaking of the aforementioned owners who are want to be more of the team or about the team than the team, we go back to the Dallas Cowboys, who now will be without Dak Prescott for 2 to 4 weeks at least.
Yeah, I believe at least 4 weeks, because I thought that they were talking about putting him on injured reserve. I don't know if they've done that, but if they do that, he's out for 4 weeks.
Now, the guy is coming in to replace him. I'm trying to think of the off the top of my head. His name.
Cooper Rush
Played well the last time he was there. He won 5 out of 6 games, and it wasn't that he was, just managing the team. I think he had something like 5 touchdown passes to only 1 interception in those games, or something, or 6-2, something like that. He played very, very well, and this is one of those things where if Cooper turns this team around, which I don't think he will, because I think that right now the Cowboys they're just badly designed. I mean, they have, and especially if CeeDee Lamb is down with his shoulder, they don't have a lot of weapons on offense. And their defense, I guess Micah Parsons coming back this week.
Potentially.
But, I mean, they just have not been playing well at all. So, I mean, it's not like when he walked in a couple of years ago and took over and did well. But it will be interesting to see if he does give them some kind of a spark.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting because, Dak is potentially done for the rest of the year. The reports that I've heard is that his hamstring is completely ripped off the bone.
Wow.
If that's correct, he's going to need more than likely season-ending surgery. Now, I've heard they have not put him on IR yet, but I think that's just a formality. I think they're going to. And, I feel bad. Cooper Rush actually came in and played pretty well. After Dak got hurt, he was 13 of 25 for 115 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, there's lots of problems. This is not the same team, especially when you look at the wide receiver position. I mean, the leading receiver against the Falcons the other day was Jake Ferguson, who had 7 catches for 71 yards. And I know CD's banged up, so he's obviously their best option. But who's the second option? Who's the second guy that you go to? I mean, Turpin, Tolbert, those guys don't do anything for me. and I think they've taken a serious step back in the talent level, and haven't done a good job. As I've said this over and over again, they haven't done a good job replacing talent for talent, and not just at the receiver position, but the running back position, defensive line, offensive line. This is not as good a football team as they've been.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing about it is, you look at the team and you look around. You know, Jerry played his cards wrong, and he had to pay big money for a CD and big money for Dak. But it's good to have two players. But if nobody else on the team can do anything, those two players are just going to struggle, as we've seen this year. Because that's easy. It's easy to defense that. And now they're playing the Eagles this week, who have found themselves. So I could see this being a blowout too.
Yeah, I could too. And as I mentioned, I feel bad for the kid, because it's not the same.
And let's get on to tonight's game, which should be, I think, one thing you talked earlier, and you said, and it's rightly so, how the NFC North has become the premier or division in the NFC. The AFC North, those four teams have the best rivalries, and I'm looking forward to tonight's game. Lamar is playing as well as you can play the position. Burrow has been playing very, very well. Can either of these defenses come up with enough stops tonight to make a difference?
Yeah, you're asking me. I don't know, man. I think it's really hurt the Ravens, losing their defensive coordinator. This team was playing really well as a unit last year, and I understand why they lost not only their defensive coordinator but also their linebackers coach, and several other guys went with him. I think he went to Miami. And, I understand that, because he was doing a really good job. And I'm not saying that Zach Orr is not good. I'm not saying that he won't be a good coordinator or a good coach in this league, but he looks at times like he's overwhelmed.
Right.
He's not sure. He doesn't have it looks to me like he doesn't have the guys up front and the back end in sync. You know what I mean? Like they're not a cohesive unit right now. And that's an issue, especially because they have talent. They got
Right.
Marlon Humphrey. They got Kyle Hamilton. I also think it was a mistake not bringing Jadeveon Clowney back. People can say whatever they want to about Jadeveon Clowney. Did he ever really live up to the number one pick in the NFL draft billing? Maybe not. But he had a hell of a year last year with the Ravens, and really, fit in well with their team, and was a difference maker on defense, and was a really good pass rusher, and got after it. He had 9.5 sacks, which tied his career high. And I thought that was a mistake letting him go. And I'm just not as impressed with the guys they have out there getting after the quarterback. Just as well as anybody, Joe, the back end and the defensive backs, they look great when the quarterback's running for his life.
Oh yeah.
And you can say, "Oh, our secondary sucks." Well, yeah, it's kind of like the Buckeyes we were talking about earlier. The secondary sucks when you don't have somebody getting after it, and I think that's those guys up front are leaving a little bit to be desired. Owe is a guy that just, to me, I don't see it. I love the interior guys a lot better. The Travis Jones, the Metabukes, those guys are really good football players. But Owe, Ajabo, Kyle Van Noy, I mean, these are the guys rushing the passer. And I think that the Ravens made a mistake not bringing somebody else in to get after the quarterback, or not keeping Jadeveon Clowney around after his 9.5 sack season last year.
And I mean, big game for Cincinnati right now. I think they're in the ninth spot they're number 9 in the conference if the playoffs were to start today. So outside looking in. So, and really, this would be a big game to get their confidence going, and get to 5-5, get back to 500 at least. Big win in their division. Joe Burrow also needs it, just a little payoff for how well he's been playing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do tonight. Coaching, I got to give of course, the advantage to Baltimore, but I'd like to see Joe Burrow have a good night tonight, and I'd like to see come down to the end and the best quarterback win.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's going to come down to that Bengals defense. If the Ravens can run the football, keep Joe Burrow off the field, they'll have this game with no problems. But if the Bengals can step up and bring it defensively up in the middle and shut down Derrick Henry and then the Ravens running game, then to me, it's anyone's game.
All right, let's start looking at the Sunday games. I think this is probably the worst thing we've done to Germany since World War II. We're sending the Giants into Carolina Panthers. So, I mean, it's like, come on. Really, seriously. I mean, come on. Talk about screwing a country. This is our game.
It's kind of mean. Giving them Daniel Jones versus Bryce Young. Yeah, that's not very nice. What have the Germans done to us?
Yeah, exactly.
Recently?
And then the first 1 o'clock game is New England against Chicago, and Chicago should handle that, but you never know with New England. I don't know what Drake May is. Is Drake May in or out?
The last I heard, he's pretty banged up. I don't know if he has been ruled out, but I do know that he is definitely pretty banged up, and I'm looking at it right now. They don't have him listed. They don't have him listed as questionable. So I'm looking to me like he's going to play.
All right, and then you got Buffalo, Indianapolis. I mean, if Flacco should be starting this week, or is Flacco starting this week?
Yes, he is.
So I don't know if Buffalo seems to be playing well enough where they're going to go through Indianapolis. No big deal. Yeah. We already talked about Minnesota, but they get Jacksonville probably with Mac Jones. So we'll see how that works out. Denver, KC, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Can Sean Payton go in and give KC their first loss?
I think so. This is a 7.5 point spread. And, the Broncos have had some success over the Kansas City, and no one's going to go undefeated. And for some reason, I just feel like the Broncos may be the team that goes in and upsets, the Chiefs. They won a close one here. They're coming on kind of a short week. I think the Broncos may have a chance to come in and shock the world.
It has. I haven't really been paying that much attention to Denver lately. Has their defense been playing as well lately as they had been earlier in the year?
Not last game. Definitely not. They have been up until last week. Last week was kind of a disaster. I don't know if you saw it, but they played the Ravens and they gave up 41 points.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's the Ravens too.
But the Ravens were just unbelievable. And Derrick Henry was firing on all cylinders. Lamar Jackson had a flawless game. He had a quarterback rating of 158.3, which is perfect. And, they were talking I heard on Sports Talk today that, through his career, Aaron Rodgers has had like 3 games that have been a perfect quarterback rating. And he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson's had 3 in the last 5 weeks.
Right.
So this guy's playing really solid football right now, and you pair that with the greatest, one of the greatest running backs of all time, and you got a really good offense. And I think things are going to keep getting better because you've got Mark Andrews has showed that he is healthy. He struggled to me watching him at the beginning of the season. It just didn't look like the same guy. And I was like, oh man, maybe he's not coming back from this injury. And,
right.
And the last 3 weeks, he's gotten better. He's running a lot better. So Mark Andrews, add him to the mix. Zay Flowers is playing at an all-time high. He had 5 catches for 127 yards last week with 2 touchdowns. And then, they added the kid from Deontay Johnson, who was from Pittsburgh and then was down in Carolina. And I think once they get him acclimated, that's going to really help. And they get their running back this week, who, was a rookie last year and, showed some really good flashes. And obviously I'm talking about Keaton Mitchell. And he's going to come back and add a little dimension to that running game with Justice Hill and Derrick Henry. You kind of had Derrick Henry, the big workhorse, first, second, third down, and then or first and second down. Then you bring in Justice Hill on third down. Well, now you got that kind of change of pace guy in Keaton Mitchell. And if they can incorporate Deontay Johnson and Keaton Mitchell into this offense, look out.
And then we got San Francisco against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is on a 3-game losing streak, which has made them 4-5. San Francisco is 4-4. McCaffrey coming back for this one. Did we talk about that yet?
Yeah, he's it looks like they're going to try and maybe work him in. I don't know if he's going to be, carrying the ball 30 times. But he has been practicing, and they talked to Shanahan yesterday, and they said if he can practice 3 days in a row, he's going to put him out there. So we'll see if he ends up practicing tomorrow. Then he'll be on the field on Sunday.
Well, even though they play 17 games now, this is a big game for both these teams because both of them, coming into the year, we thought San Francisco was going to be the best in the NFC West, and Tampa Bay was right up there with Atlanta. 3-game losing streak. Got to start getting that team back on track. Even though they don't have their wide receivers, they got to do something. And whoever comes out of this game with the loss is going to be have a long, hard struggle to stay in line for a wild card.
Yeah, I think this is a huge game, and unfortunately, I just don't feel good about the Buccaneers with their 2 wide receivers are a formidable opponent, but you take those 2 guys out of the mix, and it's just not the same. Mike Evans doesn't get the credit he deserves. This is a guy who's had over 1,000 yards in every year he's been in the league. Now, I do like the addition of their running games a little bit better this year with Rashad White and Bucky Irvin. But you take out Mike Evans, you take out Chris Godwin, and you replace him with a rookie Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard. Not the same deal to me, and I think they're going to struggle without those 2 guys. Those are kind of the 2 guys they couldn't lose. You know what I mean?
Yep, and another playoff level game, Pittsburgh against Washington. This should be a good game. I think this is going to be one of those come down to the whoever gets the ball last, field goal type games. Should be an interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Jaden Daniels can do what he's been doing to everybody else against the Pittsburgh defense. It's going to be, with that pass rush and the overall the way they play, it's going to be interesting to see if he can do what he's been doing to the rest of the league. But he has been phenomenal. I mean, when you look at him and you look at C.J. Stroud, the quarterback position in the NFL is going to be good for a long period of time.
There's no doubt. But if you look at it, man, he's only got 9 passing touchdowns. And, you look at some of the other quarterbacks in the league, just like Baker Mayfield, for example, he's got 23, and so I think that I think Aaron Rodgers has 15. So I want to see him, work the pocket and throw, throw some more touchdowns and show that he can, do it. But what can you complain about? I mean, as far as a rookie quarterback goes, he's hit the mark, and I've been blown away by how well he played. And I really feel like that last second Hail Mary play has kind of pushed this team over the line to where they believe they can win almost every game, and I expect them to beat the Steelers.
And then we got we'll just take a quick look. Jets, Arizona 5-4, surprisingly leading the NFC West right now. Jets think they they've gotten their ship in the right direction. The funniest stat around here, I don't know if you're aware of this. If Aaron Rodgers, who could possibly throw for 4,000 yards this year, it would be the second time it's been done by a Jet since 1967, which was Joe Willie Namath who did it, who was the first one to ever do it. And I was doing trivia last night, and that was one of my questions. And we were sitting there trying to figure out afterwards how many teams have not had a 4,000-yard thrower since, the Dan Marino era. Yeah. I think every team's had it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a pretty crazy stat. To me, this feels like a game that the Jets have to win. And I hate to say that because, it's the middle of the year. But I just feel like there's a huge difference between 4-6 and 3-7. To me, once you get that 7th loss, man, you're pushing it to even make the playoffs. 6 losses, you're still in the ball game. I mean, you can handle that. You can manage that. You can make it work. The problem is the Jets have not been good on the road. You talk about the Giants, sucking at home. The Jets have actually been a lot better at home and are 1-4 on the road. So, it'll come down to whether or not this Jet defense can come out and, stop the run. James Conner has had a tremendous year. He's ran for over 664 yards. He's got 4 touchdowns. The Cardinals have really been run the football. So if the Jets have any chance of winning this game, they're going to have to shut down the run and then, manage Kyle Murray getting outside.
And then the last game of the day, Detroit and Houston should be a good game. This could be a little bit. I don't. I was about to say it could be a struggle for Detroit, but I think actually it's good to have this game because they're not going to look past Houston. Houston's too good a team to look past. The semi, what they call trap game. I don't think that's going to take them down this week. So I think Detroit will handle it.
Yeah, and I think the Texans, they've lost 2 of 3, and the one game they won was by 3 points over the lowly Colts. And I think missing, their top 2 wide receivers, just like we were talking about with Tampa Bay, has hurt them. Stephon Diggs is done for the season. Nico Collins is on injured reserve. And, they're working with the veteran Robert Woods, getting a lot of playing time. They've kind of been rotating him and John Mechie. So they really need Mechie to step up. This is the kid who had cancer when he came out of Alabama and kind of missed his whole rookie year as he was fighting for his life. And, it was a really good story that he's back out there playing, but they need him to contribute. And so I feel like if Tank Dell and Mechie can get going, that'll help a lot because I don't feel like Robert Woods is going to give them what they need.
All right, and one last thing we'll touch on is Monday night. You got Miami against the Rams. The Rams, I think, are a team that's going to be interesting. They're going to be in it to the end. Great coaching. Stafford's now got his wide receivers back. They're 4-4. They're right there with San Francisco, right there. I think that division is going to be won by a team with either 9 or 10 games, the way it looks right now. So that's going to be making it interesting. The other thing about this game, and you just brought it up, if Miami goes to 2-7, do they really want to play Tua the rest of the year, or should they just let him get healthy?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would if they go 2-7. I would, especially. I would shut them down, especially with the way that they're just the Bills are 7-2. So there's really, especially considering they've already beat them. I just don't think there's any way that they're going to catch them. And I hate to say shut it down halfway through, but just with the way that the concussions have been going. With Tua, I thought he came back too soon to begin with. And I feel like if they lose another one, I'm with you. I think you should.
Well, I mean, right now they're sitting at number 12 in their conference in terms of the playoffs. So you even got Tennessee in front of them so far. You got the Jets, you got the Bengals, Colts, Broncos, Chargers, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Bills, and then Kansas City at the top. I mean, just to get to that, I don't see them leapfrogging over all those teams, especially if they get to 7 losses. I don't see it happening.
No, I would, I'd play them this week and see what happens. But after that, I think they've got to take a good hard look at what's the best for him and what's best for the football team.
Exactly. And see what these guys behind him can do. What do we got on man coverage this week?
Yeah, we're going to have Bryant Browning on the show, former All Big Ten offensive lineman. He's going to help break us down the college football playoffs. He's going to give us a Big Ten breakdown as who he thinks is going to make it into the college football playoff out of the Big Ten. He works for a lot of the publications up there in Columbus, and he's going to join us on Sunday at 12 o'clock. And, we're also going to be going over the big games of this week. There's not a bunch of huge matchups, but there's definitely some interesting games. Georgia heading into Oxford to play Ole Miss. This is kind of an elimination game for Ole Miss. If they lose 3 games, they're done. They're not going to make it into the playoff, and this is a good football team. So I'm very interested to see whether or not Lane Kiffin can get it done. He's been there for years now, and we've never seen that one big signature win against Bama or Georgia or a team like that.
He's got James Franklin disease.
He's got Georgia at home, man. And I'm telling you this, I know you were making fun of James Franklin. Penn State's not done, buddy. Penn State, I think, is a good football team, and I don't think we've heard the last of them. I think they still have an outside shot of making the playoffs. They've only got one loss, and I'm not sure they're going to lose another one. So I don't think we're done with Penn State. And then another game that intrigues me is Indiana, Michigan. It's in Bloomington. Indiana is 9-0. They're the Cinderella story. They've got an unbelievable coach who's already won Big Ten Coach of the Year in my mind. But this is kind of, it's live or die territory for the Michigan Wolverines. They're 5-4 right now. If they lose this game, they're 5-5 going into the last two games, and one of those games is against Ohio State. They may not make a bowl game. You go from winning the national championship to missing a bowl. That's going to be really embarrassing. So, can they compete with Indiana? Can they stop that high-powered offense? Can they pick a quarterback and get a touchdown? We'll see. But that's going to be a very interesting game, in my opinion.
Well, let me tell you something. If Michigan doesn't make the bowl game even, the Oregon coach, Lanning, and the coach at Vanderbilt are going to be getting some calls from some alumni in Michigan.
Yeah, but I don't know how you can fire Sharon Moore. I mean, you kind of stuck with this guy through all the, all the turmoil and all the hoopla with the cheating scandal, which looks kind of hard to win when you don't know what play's coming, by the way. But I don't think you can just get rid of him, considering you've backed this guy from the get-go. And I think to get rid of him after year one would be a bad look for the university. But hey, maybe they blame everything on him for the controversy. They will. I mean, winning cures all. If they were one loss team right now, if they were 7-1 or 7-2, they'd be, all up in arms about what a great coach he is. But now that they're struggling, maybe they make him fall on the sword and kick his ass out. I don't know. But another good game to be watching is Alabama LSU, another elimination game, because whoever loses this game is going to have 3 losses and is going to be out from the SEC. So a couple of playoff games already in this Saturday, and one to watch is Washington Penn State. I just talked about Penn State, how much I think they're still in it. But Washington's a sneaky team, man. They've got some good wins already this year. And, you wouldn't think that they're that good of a football team, but, they beat USC. They beat Michigan, and they're a little bit better than people give them credit for. So we'll see if they can hang with Penn State. I think Penn State will win, but it should be a good game.
All right, my friend. Have a good night tonight, and we will see what the game brings tonight and throughout the weekend. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Take it easy, Nate.
All right, buddy.